Today I'm going to be sharing about my daughter, Tela Clementine. This is the story of her life and of her passing. I'm doing this video because yesterday was her birthday. And I thought I was going to do the video yesterday, but I was just too emotional yesterday to do this video. So I'm going to go through the story of her life and what happened, and I have her memory box here as well that I haven't gone through in a really, really long time that I'm going to go through. So I found out I was pregnant in October of 2016. We had a couple of previous losses, a couple of previous early miscarriages, and so we were a little bit weary about this one, but very excited. As the pregnancy progressed, I don't know why this is so hard to talk about. I haven't even gone through the story in my mind from beginning to end, I don't think, since it happened, so I'm just trying to get my thoughts in order. We were very excited to find out that we were pregnant. We had been trying to have a baby for a couple of years. Everything seemed to be progressing well. I got very, very sick with something called hyperemesis gravidarum, which is extreme morning sickness. It feels like so much more than that, though. I had to be hospitalized and I couldn't even drink water, and it was just really, really hard. So during most of my pregnancy with Tila, I was very, very sick. We were living in Houston at the time when I got pregnant. We have since moved, but that's where my husband's family lives, and when I was sick in the hospital, my father-in-law actually brought me this teddy bear, and I could not wait to give it to Tila, so I've kept this teddy bear ever since. Tila's heartbeat bear. While I was pregnant, we actually got to have a 3D ultrasound, and while we were there, I got this heartbeat bear, so I'll forever have her heartbeat. I was in the hospital, in and out, getting IVs, getting medication. Basically, they were keeping me alive. While I felt like I was dying, Tila was actually thriving inside of me, and she was growing well, and she was doing amazing. We had a gender reveal to find out if she was a boy or a girl, and I just remember it was one of the best days of my life, having that gender reveal. Cody, my husband, his older sister, organized it for us, so she knew the gender before we did. And my other sister-in-law was pregnant at the time as well, and we were due to have our babies pretty close together, and she was having a girl. So when we found out we were having a girl at the gender reveal, we were just overjoyed. They were going to be best friends. They were going to grow up together. And it was the happiest I have ever seen my husband was that day. Literally not since, well, let me take that back. The happiest I have ever seen my husband was that day, equal to the day that our son was born. I think he really, really wanted a girl too, so he was very excited. And I had that on video I had the whole gender reveal on video, but I haven't been able to bring myself to watch it because it is just like the happiest I have ever seen my husband, and it just breaks my heart. I actually tried looking for that video recently, and I can't even find it, and I'm really upset that I can't find it, but I'm gonna keep looking for it. I do have some pictures from that day though. Okay, so I was hospitalized for a couple of weeks, and then when I got out of the hospital, I kind of started turning a corner and feeling a little bit better. And these are my favorite memories with my husband and with Tila, because I was actually able to enjoy my pregnancy, and we started to feel her kicking and moving a lot, and Cody started feeling her kicking, and it was just like, little did we know, but that was going to be the time where all three of us got to bond together, and we were so happy. We even got to go out to eat, which I barely got to do at all during that pregnancy because I was so sick. But on Valentine's Day, February 14th, we went out to a really fancy restaurant, and I felt so good. I felt so happy. I was pregnant. I was showing. I had my bump. I felt like we were finally going out into the world as a family. And then a couple of weeks after Valentine's Day, I noticed some pink, literally like a spot of pink blood in my underwear. And because of my previous losses, we freaked out. We ran to the emergency room, and they said that it was normal. Baby looked fine. She was great. She was moving around. Her heart was great. Everything was normal there. Another like weekish or so goes by, and I start feeling really tired. I'm like exhausted. Like I can't even go to the kitchen to get something to eat because I just feel too tired, kind of tired. And when I talked to my doctor about this, she said it's normal. It's normal pregnancy. It's normal to feel tired in your pregnancies. Again, normals. Then a couple of weeks after that, I had more blood. So I ran to the emergency room again. Everything they said was normal. They didn't take my blood. They didn't really do much except check on the baby. But baby looked great. She was doing fine. So that was that. Normal. Again, normal. Normal. About like 5 days or a week after that happened, it's the middle of the night. My husband is sleeping in bed, and I feel a gush come out. And I'm like, what the hell was that? So I ran to the bathroom, and something just kept trickling out, and it was clear in color and also green in color. So I ran to my husband. I woke him up. He shot right out of bed. My husband was actually, I think, like recovering from a tooth like extraction or something. It's like the details are so foggy for me. But I remember he shot right out of bed, and we ran to the emergency room. The emergency room next to my house was not the hospital where my OB was associated with. The hospital where my OB was about 45 minutes away. So we decided to go to the closest one. And I had a horrible experience there before with a miscarriage, where they actually threw away my baby. But that's a different story for a different day. But we get to that hospital, and I'm in a wheelchair and I'm sitting in the lobby, and at this point I am 22 and a half weeks, 23 weeks along. So I'm sitting in the lobby with my husband, and the receptionist is trying to decide if I'm supposed to go up to the maternity ward or if I'm supposed to stay in the ER. You can go to the maternity ward. The rule was when you're 20 weeks, and I was well over 20 weeks, and I kept telling her that. But she was literally like sitting there doing the math on this calendar and trying to figure it out for herself, wasting all of this time. Meanwhile, I have still having fluids come out of me, and she's just taking her sweet time and calling the maternity unit, and they're doing the math together, and it's just like insane. So finally they figure out that I'm 22 and a half, 23 weeks along, and they let me go upstairs. This is actually one of the hardest parts for me to talk about because they were so horrible to us at that hospital. So we get upstairs. It seems like we wait forever. It is the middle of the night, so I understand that there might not be a lot of people on staff, but it was empty there, and they're like just like eating at their nurse's station. So finally they come in, questions, vitals, checks, this, that. Then they say that they want to check to see if it's amniotic fluid. So they have like 4 people in the room. They stick the crank thing in. They crank the thing open. And the doctor's like, oh wait, I forgot something. And she sends her nurse to go get it. I'm literally sitting there with my legs in the air, terrified, leaking, with this thing cranked for what seemed like an hour, but it must have been 15 minutes. And when you have something going wrong down there, especially if it might be an infection, especially if it might be amniotic fluid, you want to limit exams as much as possible. Anything going inside, you want to limit it as much as possible. So the fact that I'm sitting there with this thing cranked in me for 15 minutes, it's like beyond logic to me. The nurse literally comes back in the room. She's like, I can't find the thing. The doctor's like, did you look in the thing? And she's like, I'll go look in the thing. So she ran out again, and I'm still sitting there with this thing cranked in me. She finally gets back. They take a sample. We wait. We're sitting there just waiting. That room, it was so like cold. It was so dark and lonely, and it just felt like, I don't know how to explain it. It almost felt like I was like in an insane asylum or something. Like it just felt so cold. And the doctor comes back in, and she's so matter-of-factly just says, this is amniotic fluid and it is infected. You are probably going to give birth to your baby very soon. You need to wait in the hospital until you give birth to your baby. You're probably going to start to feel contractions soon. She said, your baby is not going to live. So at this point, I'm like freaking out. I told my husband, I was like, we cannot stay in this hospital. We have to leave right now. So we asked the staff if there's a way that I can get to the other hospital. Is there an ambulance? Is there something that could take me? And they said no ambulance. So I told my husband, I was like, we are getting in the car and we are driving. And they told me, we do not recommend that. You could have your baby in the car. And I was like, there's literally no way I can have my baby here. These people. So we signed papers that we were leaving against medical advice. I got in the wheelchair, and on the way out, actually, a nice nurse came up to me and she said, I'm praying for you, and make sure that you lay down in the back seat and you keep your legs up during your car ride. So the car ride was just like silence. Again, it seemed like it took forever. Like everything about this process felt like 3 years. We finally got to my hospital where my OB is, where my OB was. And, you know, people started rushing in, they wanted to test for themselves the amniotic fluid and all of that. We waited, and this lady came in, and I remember she sat on the foot of my bed, and she was holding my foot, and she said, you have an infection that went through to the placenta of your baby, and we have to deliver your baby or you're both gonna die. Because once the infection goes through to the placenta, antibiotics can't go through the placenta, so there's no way of getting rid of the infection. So it was basically like, give birth to the baby and I can live, or don't give birth to the baby and we both will die. And I told her, I said, she is so close to being 24 weeks where they would maybe try to save her. Is there any way we can wait? We can't wait. Can we wait 1 more week? And she said, by tomorrow, you're gonna be in the ICU. And I'm just thinking about right now how frustrating it is because I was not feeling well and nobody would take me seriously. So, this hospital that we went to is a religious hospital. My husband and I are not religious. We are spiritual. But since this hospital was religious and they were basically talking about taking the life of a baby, the decision for me to give birth to the baby had to go through a panel of I think 40 something people, and they all had to agree to it, that it was in the best interest of the mother to give birth to the baby. So about 2 hours go by, she comes back and she says, okay, they all signed off on it. So in one way that made me feel a little bit better because I felt like, okay, these are kind of religious people. They value life maybe as much as I value life, as much as I value this life also. And they wouldn't want to do anything if it wasn't 100% necessary. So we started the induction. The induction was through, I can't even remember how they did it. I think it was like a dissolvable pill or something. But they started the induction, and the nurse that was with me, I remember she was so nice. And they started me on antibiotics as well. And then it was just time to wait for the contractions to start. I had already hired a doula for when it was actually time to give birth, and I wasn't sure if I was still eligible to have her come, but I called her and she came, and she was like amazing. I'm so thankful for her. She actually wrote down like all these notes about the process, and I am so happy to have that now. So she came, and my husband also went home for a little bit to take a shower and kind of like get things in order. I was kind of upset with him that he left at the time, but then later on I found out that, you know, he told me he just wanted to look good for her. You know, the only time they were gonna meet each other. So he's back, the doula's there, the contractions start. Okay, so then the nurse that was there that I had actually gotten attached to, she came in and she said, okay, my shift is over. I have to go now. And I just like looked at her and I was like, do you have to? And I remember she looked really sad. But I'll never forget her. And then, because when you're in the hospital, like, you never know. One nurse could be really nice and one nurse could be really nasty. So I felt really lucky to have such a nice one, but the nurse that came after her was also really nice. So I got really lucky. Okay, so let me pull myself together. So the contractions start, labor is starting. It felt like labor, you know? It sucked, but I also, at the same time, like, I really wanted to feel everything. Like, I really wanted to go through this process. I wanted to feel this was my last, the last thing I was gonna do with my baby. This was our last thing together, and she was gonna be born, and this is like the most important moment of my life. And I wanted to feel everything. And I wanted to be there and be present for the whole thing. And I don't think I had cried yet this whole time. I didn't cry yet at all. When the doctor told me, I didn't cry, no tears, no nothing. I was like I was just like in shock. But at the same time, it was like shock, but also like, as a mom, like, your main priority is to like take care of your baby. So it's like I felt like I had something to do, like I needed to do this for my baby. What am I gonna do? Crawl up in a corner and just pretend this isn't happening? No, I had to get myself together. I still wanted her to come into the world like not scared and at peace. So labor lasted around 6 hours. It got more and more painful, of course. My doula was great. She was so helpful. I was able to like sleep a little bit in between contractions. She slept like right next to me, literally, like on my bed. I remember during my contractions, like my doula was there, and then my husband, like I just remember him sitting in this chair like across the room, and he just looked so sad and so scared. It was horrible. And then labor lasted around 6 hours, and I felt like I needed to push. So my doula went and grabbed the nurse. They checked. Yes, time to push. I was laying there, and they was like, wait, we need to call the doctor because it was in the middle of the night. This is now the next middle of the night, like 24 hours after I started feeling the amniotic fluid come out. The nurse came in and she was like, wait, you have to wait for the doctor. You can't push yet. You have to wait for the doctor to come. So I literally just sat there waiting. I was like, I cannot wait. Like, she's ready to come out. And they're like, you have to wait. You have to wait. Which I don't fucking understand. Like, if I want to have this baby at home, I'll have this baby at home. If the baby's ready to come, I'm not going to make her wait. But they made me wait. So then the doctor finally came, and I remember she walked in, she turned on all the lights, so bright and like jarring. And then she said nothing. This doctor said absolutely nothing. From the moment she stepped in to the moment she stepped out, it was nothing. And it almost felt like I was like bothering her. Like she was like sleeping, and I bothered her and woke her up, and she said nothing. Everybody was like, push, push, so I pushed. And then I remember everybody just being like, one more push, and she's gonna be out. And like, you know how in the movies when people are giving birth, they're like, I can't do this. I can't push. I said that. I was like, I can't, even though I could, because I wasn't having a difficult time pushing. But I said, I can't. And in my head, it was like, I'm not ready. Like everybody's like, one more push, and it's like over, you know? And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not ready. So I'm like, I can't push her. And everybody's like, you can. So I pushed her, and she was born. And this is one of my biggest regrets, that they immediately took her to decide to take her vitals and everything. And I just wish they just would have given her to me. Like, she wasn't gonna live anyways, so I just wish I had thought about these things. But you don't think about these things. I wish I had videotaped it. I didn't videotape it. I wish I had just stared at her while she was alive. So they wrapped her up, they put the little hat on her, they handed her to me, they put the stethoscope on, and she's still alive. She's still breathing. She's still alive right now. And that's when I started birthing the placenta. So that was actually the most painful part for me. So I told my husband, who was right next to me, I said, can you hold her while they do this part? So he took her. I birthed the placenta. Everything was normal about the birth. After that, he gave her back to me, and they took her. They did another stethoscope check on her to see if she was breathing, and she had passed. So she probably passed away when my husband was holding her. And my husband said that he saw her breathing, and I didn't. At least I don't remember it. So then the nurse said that she lived for half an hour. God. I'm a mess. She lived for half an hour. They brought in this thing called like a cuddle cot, and if you've ever heard of anybody losing their baby, this is a very normal thing. Not all hospitals have it, which is a tragedy, but it's this thing where it's cold and it's like a little bed for your baby, and you can put your baby there, and it preserves your baby so that you could spend time with your baby. And it is like the most, it's like the biggest blessing. And so she got to stay in there, and they put her in there right after I got up to go to the bathroom, and I just puked. I just threw up. I was just throwing up. I went to the bathroom. I came back and I saw her in the cuddle cot, and I just lost it. I just wailed. Like, I was just like wailing. Like, I've never even heard myself cry like that before. Like the deep, like sorrow, pain, like deep, deep inside, just like coming out of your mouth. So, I had to continue the antibiotics for about 3 days, which was so amazing because I got to spend 3 days with my baby. Most parents who lose their baby in this way probably get to spend like 24 hours or so with their baby, and I got to spend 3 glorious days, and I got to bathe her, I got to dress her, I got to hold her all day long. So we got to sing to her, we got to read to her, tell her that we love her. I got to study her. I studied every single inch of her body. I etched it into my memory. The one thing that I was nervous about was her, if I would be able to remember how she smelled. And I do remember. And that was like the one thing I'm like, I can't take that with me. I can take pictures, I can do all this stuff, but I can't take that smell with me. And I just wanted to remember it. And I do remember it. And my husband says he remembers it too. Also during that time we were planning her funeral, which we had in upstate New York. And we traveled to her funeral after she passed, but my husband had to like deal with all those arrangements, and it's like you never even think about something like this happening. What do you even do when you lose your baby? So we got to spend 3 days with her, and I remember my doctor, my OB, coming to visit me, and she, checked my vitals, did all that stuff, and then she put her hand on my shoulder, and she's like, I think that you can leave here soon. I bet you're dying to get out of here. I bet you're dying to go home. And I just wanted to be like, no, I'm not dying to go home. Like, you are obviously somebody that has never lost your baby, because in this hospital room is where my baby is, and at home is where all the memories of our hopeful future of we were going to have this baby and we were going to have this beautiful life here. We left it like that. It was almost like this shrine that like you just like leave it in place, and you go and you have this horrible thing happen to you, and you come back to like everything still as it is, but you are forever different. And how do I even belong here anymore? How do I even belong in this house? How do I even belong thinking this is where we're gonna put the crib, this is where you know, maybe she'll take her first steps here and she'll love playing in the backyard and all this stuff. How do you even go back there being such a different person? So my doctor obviously wasn't somebody that ever lost her baby, because I don't think that she would have said that to me. Because no, I did not want to go anywhere. I would have lived in that room for the rest of my life with my baby. Oh, God. While we were at the hospital, we only had a couple of visitors. My mom was actually supposed to fly in that weekend, like before I lost the baby, but I told her not to come because my mom and I don't get along that well, and it's not something that I wanted her there for. I didn't want her there for something that was so hard in my life, and I knew she was probably going to say something that would hurt me, so I didn't want her to come. But we had Cody's sister and his sister's husband visited us, and so did his parents. And I felt very fortunate for the people that got to see Tila. His sister was the only other person to touch Tila, and that really meant a lot to me. That she felt brave enough to come and brave enough to, you know, just reach out and touch her and touch her cheek. That really meant a lot to me, because it was like a hard thought in my mind that I love this baby so much, and my husband and I are the only people that are going to ever see her and ever appreciate her and ever get to love on her. So I forever will love his sister for doing that one simple thing of reaching out to physically touch my daughter. So it came time to leave, and I had realized that I had some alone time with my baby when my husband went to go get food or make arrangements or whatever. But I realized that my husband had never been alone with Tila. So I said, you sit with her. Why don't you hold her? Spend some time, just the two of you. I'll wait outside. So for about half an hour, I just sat outside the door, and I let them have their time together. And I could hear him crying through the door. And then I went back in and we took a lot of pictures. So many pictures. I took a picture of every inch of her body. I took pictures everything. I took pictures of all of her clothes, of all of her, the little hats she got, hugging her, kissing her. We took pictures of everything. And then it was time to leave, and I just remember feeling we're leaving her alone. And they needed to take her down to the morgue, but nobody was ready to come get her from the morgue yet. And I said, I can't leave her. I can't leave her alone in this room. And the nurse that was there said, I'll stay. I'll sit with her. So we got ready to go. We said our goodbyes probably 500 times. We could not leave. And finally I get in the wheelchair to go, and my husband's there too. I remember just rolling down the hall, just sobbing, just sobbing.
and I'm holding like all of this stuff, like these flowers, and they gave us this like memory box, and like I'm holding like all of this stuff, but I'm not holding my baby. And I felt so empty. And we get to the elevator, and we get in the elevator, and I remember there's another woman waiting for the elevator, and we get in, and I'm just like sobbing, and we get in the elevator, and this man is like holding the door for her to come in, and she's like, I'll take the next one. I'll get in the next one. I think she just like knew what happened. I don't know. We got down to the parking lot. My husband went to go get the car, and I remember waiting in the parking lot, and I see this little girl, and she's like holding a flower, and she's like running around holding this flower. It made me like really happy to see that like somebody got to have their little girl on one hand, and like really sad on the other hand. And that's what this whole journey has been like for me. It's like losing Tila was like one of the happiest days of my life, and it was also one of the saddest days of my life, because I got to meet my daughter. I got to hold my daughter. It's like incomparable. But I also lost her on the same day. Think about having your baby and what it feels like to have them, hold them. I still had that feeling of having my baby, and then I lost her. So we go home, and I just didn't want to see anyone for a while. I didn't feel like talking to anyone for a while. My birthday was a couple of days after that, and we just went to a park, and my husband bought me this beautiful blanket with like Tila's name on it, and the time she was born and how much she weighed and all that stuff. Actually, she was born at 2:45 a.m. and she weighed almost a pound. And she was like perfect. She was just perfect, this perfect little angel, and I just always think of her like that. It's like, on one hand, she's not here with me, but on the other hand, it's like she's always going to be etched in my memory as that perfect little angel. Like, she was never going to do any wrong. She just, the most precious little baby. Forever. Just precious little angel. So after that, life was kind of a whirlwind, and it was actually a lot harder after we lost her, because a lot of people didn't understand, and people grieve differently, and a lot of people just like said some mean things. That's going to be a different video, because that was the most traumatizing part of it all for me, that I thought I would have people to lean on afterwards, and I just felt like completely alone, and I was kind of shocked as to how people acted towards me after that. So we had her funeral, and it was beautiful, and it was more of a celebration of her life. It was like a birthday party, and that's what I wanted it to be, like a birthday party, because it was going to be the only birthday party we were ever going to have for her. And I was so blessed to have her. I didn't want it to be sad. I wanted it to be like a celebration of her life. My husband and I built her casket. We painted it with a big butterfly on it. Oh my God, sorry. I just need to pull myself together. The reason I'm doing this video is because when I lost Tila, the only thing that helped me was connecting with other moms that lost their baby and seeing that they're laughing again, they're going to work, they're doing life again, and while life might look a little bit different now, they're still going on. And that was the only thing that helped me, was seeing that other moms are going on, and if they can do it, I can do it too. So I just want you to know that if you're going through this or something similar like this right now,
you have joined a sisterhood of moms that know the pain of losing their baby. And we are here to support each other. And I'm here to show you that life does go on, and you will smile again, and you will laugh again. Things will always feel different. It will always be different, but not always in a bad way. You can do a lot of good with this pain that you feel in your baby's name.